morning. Well, I woke up this morning and I had an email in my email box from Guitar Center. I get their ads and blurbs and everything. It's usually just, this sale and that sale and, buy it now before it's gone kind of stuff, which has had a particularly poignant ring with all the news lately when they say buy it now before it's gone. But I did get a letter from Guitar Center this morning that was a little more serious. As one of their customers, they called me a valued customer. I appreciated that. But it says some things about their bankruptcy, and it also says some things about their pro coverage and their gear card. And there's been a lot of talk on YouTube and other guitar community sites on the internet about Guitar Center in general. I've kind of made my contributions to that. I like Guitar Center. They're my store where I buy my upper end gear. But one of the things that comes up a lot of times is their warranties. Will they honor their warranties and gear cards? And I love Philip McKnight. I don't know if you know Philip McKnight. He's probably one of the main guitar channels on YouTube, and I watch him every week. And he and I'm sure they do too. Sweetwater, they watch because he's got so many viewers. Well, last night he had on his podcast quite a long discussion, very good discussion as always with him, very insightful and knowledgeable. But he had a long discussion on Guitar Center, and one of the things that I think he said was. He'd go easy. He didn't say don't, but he said go easy on using their gear card credit or their warranties, which I guess would be their pro coverage. Like maybe they won't be around and you'll be stuck holding the bag somehow financially. And I almost wondered if this was a response to that podcast. I don't know. It went out last night and then I got this email this morning. I don't know. But anyway, I got this email from Guitar Center. And I'm not high-tech enough to do one of these fancy screen sharings. I've got to figure out how to do that or get the gear to do it. But I did print it off on my computer, and I'm going to show you the letter, and we'll look at it. So let's go. And there is, in all its primitive glory, the letter that I just printed by hitting print from Guitar Center from my email account. Let's zoom in here and see if we can see it. I'm sorry the text so bad. Dear me, I don't use my name. Thank you for being a loyal customer of Guitar Center. Thank you for being a loyal customer of Guitar Center. We genuinely appreciate your business. I'm pleased to share that the Guitar Center company has announced an agreement to strengthen our financial structure, which will allow us to serve you better for the long term. During this time, there is likely to be press coverage, so we wanted to let you hear from us what to expect. See, I thought maybe that was actually a lot of the comments, but in particular, last night, the Philip McKnight Know Your Gear podcast or community discussion where this was discussed fairly specifically. Then I got this. This letter went out. I didn't see what time. But look what it says here. I'm pleased to share that the Guitar Center company has announced an agreement to strengthen our financial structure, which will allow us to serve you better for the long term. During this time, there is likely to be press coverage, so we wanted you to hear from us what to expect. So in other words, I guess don't listen to everybody on the internet. They're not worried about the press coverage. I think they're worried about everybody on YouTube. Newspapers these days, they're just going to have a few lines, but people on YouTube, man, they know their stuff, and a lot of it's maybe speculative, but they go into some depth, way more than the newspaper. But here are the bullet points. Our stores, e-commerce, lessons, and call centers are open and available to you as we continue to operate our business as usual. Second bullet point, this is the one I thought I'd highlight. We will continue to serve your needs as usual. Therefore, customer service, financing with your gear card, your Guitar Center gear card, and pro coverage remain unaffected. So I don't know. The gear card, I figured if they, I did wonder about Pro Covers. I figured I have a gear card and I use it. It's kind of nice. They have some nice, you can kind of isolate your music purchases. And they have some 6 month, same as cash financing deals and things like that. I like the gear card. I think you got to be careful with it because it can kind of sneak up on you. It seems like free guitars. So, but I sort of figured if they go out of, I was wondering about that because I buy pro coverage, especially on good guitars or electronic stuff that like electronic stuff can be a pain to get fixed. And so I have bought pro coverage on several things. I've never really had to use it, but I figured the gear card is a separate financing company. So I figured I didn't. I always figured Guitar Center, if they did go out, I figured they would honor the gear card because the gear card's really a separate financing company, as Synchrony or something like that. But it's like all these credit cards. Guitar Center is not actually doing the financing, so I figured that you wouldn't all if they went out of business, you wouldn't all of a sudden get some message. Two guys would come up to your house named Saul and Vinny with no neck, saying you got 48 hours to pay or we're going to break your legs, take your firstborn kid or some other body part. But I did wonder about the pro coverage, so let's look what they say. It would be a credit system, but I did worry. I did wonder about pro coverage, because I've paid those warranties. I bought one fairly recently on some electric gear I have, and I bought it. They always say the 2 year. There's always an upcharge. It's like any guitar. There's always an upcharge, and then there's kind of a bare bones. And I always get the kind of middle one. That's usually the best kind of deal. I got the 2 year, and then it's renewable. So they have. So I did kind of wonder. Well, if they go out, did I just waste the money on the pro coverage? But they're saying no. To facilitate this financial process, we will voluntarily file for restructuring under Chapter 11. That's what Philip McKnight said, which we expect to complete quickly. During this time, we will continue all of our operations without interruption. See, Philip McKnight was talking about Chapter 7, which is, basically fire sale, we're done, but Chapter 11 is like restructuring, and I think Chapter 11 stiffs a lot of people. That's one thing, again, Philip McKnight, not trying to, but Philip McKnight said something that's kind of sobering is Guitar Center owes a lot of people money, and they're not going to pay them. So you can imagine being maybe anything, Fender or Gibson, that for that matter, but even maybe like some of these smaller pedal companies and everything, that's really going to hurt them. So Chapter 11 is basically they're not going to pay some people, or they're not, at least under the original terms. They might come up with something. But years ago, HBO had a comedy series. George Carlin was my favorite, but one of the other comedians was Rita Rudner. Born to be Mild was her show, and she had a joke about Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It came to me after all these years. She said Chapter 11 is borrow a lot of money, file Chapter 11, and don't pay anybody back. She said, what's Chapter 12, run like hell? I thought that was pretty funny, and I just kind of remembered it this morning as I was doing this. I hadn't thought of it in years, but what's Chapter 12? Chapter 11 is where they can keep going. I guess they get to, just stiff, some of the debts and keep going. I think, most importantly, we are staying focused on helping customers make more music. We continue to have the gear you want and need. See, I think that replies to some of the scarcity videos, with new gear arriving regularly, and we are here to support your holiday shopping needs as we have exciting holiday promotions ready for you. So Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. That I'm sure that's a big time for them. But you know, even I did a video the other night about Elixir strings, and I've seen some other. Even Philip McKnight actually had another thing on Elixir strings last night, which the company that makes it's the chemicals they can't get to coat the strings, and that might be going on for a long time. So, but here it's saying, and there's been a lot of comments about the scarcity of guitars, but particularly Guitar Center. You go in there and they don't have that many guitars. And I did a video about a week ago or 2 weeks ago about a shortage of Elixir strings and also some footage of empty guitar shelves. And I'm going to share it again. And again, I just would like to reiterate, Guitar Center has a floor room, unlike some of these mostly online places. So it's not really fair. I did it too, but it's not really fair to look at the shortage of guitars as though it's Guitar Center's problem specifically. There might be low inventories at some of these online places, but you don't notice it because you can't walk in there and see a shelf that's designed for 100 guitars with 20 guitars on it. So guitar, it is too bad, and it's striking when you see a shortage of guitars that visibly. But again, I think that's because of Guitar Center's strength, that it has a floor room. That it's a more visible thing. So this is some of the footage I took of that shortage.
You can see there still are very few acoustic guitars. That top rows, they're Martins. They do have some nice Taylors. Certainly nothing like they used to have, though. If you look up there, they have almost no of the top Martins, like D28s. That's a row of Martins there, but it's the lower end Martins mostly. $1,200 and down. Up there is the high end Martins, and they're almost all gone. They don't have any. The high-end room, and it's pretty stocked. I imagine they sell a lot fewer of these. A lot of the relic guitars and things are in here.
Guitar Center's retail, and they have a floor room. So when they don't have many guitars, it sticks out. All these online companies, if their inventory's down, you don't see it. It's just a website for most people. But people walk into a Guitar Center. That's the good thing about Guitar Center, everybody. You can walk in and try guitars, and it has online. People might say Sweetwater has a better website, or I don't buy a website. I buy a guitar. Guitar Center has the combination of a retail floor room and a website. I don't know if it's pretty enough for people or not. The pictures could be a little better, I guess. But when their inventory's down, everybody notices it because they're a floor. Though that's the strength of them. But here it's addressing that. We continue to have the gear you want and need, with new gear arriving regularly, and we are here to support your holiday shopping needs as we have exciting holidays promotions ready for you. And then if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to email us at blah, blah, blah. And let's see. What's his name? Ron. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Joinoa. So that was the letter from Guitar Center. and I wanted to share that. I thought it might be newsworthy. I support Guitar Center. A couple other videos. I have the best gear in my life thanks to Guitar Center. I've got, you know, I think especially their Fender selection, I think is really good. I'm not a Gibson buyer, but they're, you know, and all the inventories I think were down with Fender towards the end of the summer. So I'm assuming, you know, they're going to get the main Fenders. But I support Guitar Center. I've got the best gear in my life thanks to Guitar Center. I think the gear card can be nice. You know, probably any, you know, financial guru would tell you go easy on the debt, you know, which is good advice. But it is nice to have a gear card to kind of isolate those music purchases. And I bought the Pro coverage on several things, and I've never used it. But I particularly buy it on a really good guitar. I asked the guy, so I got on one of my guitars, I got the one that's like for everything. I said, you mean I can take this American Strat and I can, you know, get loaded, you know, do a Ritchie Blackmore, Jimi Hendrix, Pete Townsend, you know, and smash it and throw it off a cliff, burn it, and I'm covered. And he said, well, he didn't know about that. I think he did say, you know, it would be, they might not, I don't know what he said, but really it's covered for accidents. So that means that even if it's your fault, you know, like, because if you play in a bar, like I've played in a fair amount of bars, man, and anytime you play, just, you know, setting up, you've got a nice guitar there with the mic, you've got cables, stuff gets knocked over. So Pro coverage covers accidents. And to me, with a nice guitar, I'm not too worried about, you know, like, you know, a wire goes loose. But a lot of times I haven't had a problem with that with these newer guitars they make. They're so great. It might, you know. But to me, the coverage for accidents, for someone that plays a lot, that's great. You know, you have a coverage that says, you know, if some drunk guy comes up while you're, you know, taking a break and, you know, your guitar gets kicked over, that's covered. So, and I don't know the details of Pro coverage. I'm sure the large print giveth and the fine print taketh away, but I think it sounds like they're going to honor Pro coverage. And I've always thought Pro coverage, particularly the 2-year version of it, not that there's an upcharge version where you pay quite a bit more, and then there's kind of a bare bones version, but the 2-year version of a lot of that I think is good. And I was glad to see, according to this letter, they're honoring it. So I guess some people could say, well, you know, there's a piece of paper, you know what they say about a piece of paper. But I thought it was a good letter, and I'm supporting Guitar Center. And I enjoyed the podcast last night by Mr. Philip McKnight. Always, I watch him every week. But I just thought I'd kind of mention that, since Pro coverage was one of the things they talked about at some length. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Speaking of holiday shopping.
Bye.